Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 ridiculous things that we're trying to accomplish with technology. Today we live in an increasingly digital and technological society. While it's certainly good to continue to build on our knowledge, create things that continue to improve our world and make our lives easier in the process, not all technology is necessarily good. Many people will jump on new technologies and companies will spend billions of dollars on these new technologies just because maybe it sounds cool or because they simply can, without wondering for a moment whether they actually should. While mistakenly using technology doesn't necessarily have drastic consequences, it is often completely unnecessary and at best a huge waste of time and money. As any good computer scientist will tell you, there are some problems that it's not a good idea to attempt to solve with computers. And sometimes when you try to solve problems the wrong way, you actually create even more issues than you sought to fix in the first place. Number 10. Self-driving cars and their consequences. One of the exciting new technologies being worked on by Google and now many other companies who have decided to get in on the action early are self-driving cars. The self-driving car was supposed to be beneficial because it could help disabled people who cannot drive get around, and also because it would ideally ensure that distracted driving was a thing of the past. However, despite the pros, the companies testing them have struggled to get approvals. In California, where Google does most of its testing, the approvals came with the caveat that there always has to be a licensed driver at the wheel who was paying attention and could take over if needed. This brings us to the question of how they should function, and the entire thing is a huge legal and moral quagmire. Some legislators are unsure if cars should be allowed to be both self-driving and drivable, or if cars should only come one way or the other to make it easier to properly enforce rules and safety regulations. They are also concerned about how it would be programmed in terms of risk evaluation. Whether through the fault of the car or another car, or however it happened, if a situation should occur where the computer is in control and danger is apparent, it has to decide how to make decisions. Most humans would instinctively make the decision that would protect themselves, but some lawmakers think the car should be designed to take the course of action that protects the most lives, even if it kills the driver. While this stance makes sense morally, it may be difficult to get people to drive those cars. Number 9. Trying to come up with algorithms which predict the future of mankind. Predicting the future is something that humans have been trying to do for about as long as history goes back. From rulers to normal citizens and from the rich to the poor, people have sought to divine the future of themselves and the world around them in the hopes of somehow influencing it to better their fate. In more enlightened times, people's belief in fortune-telling and astrology has mostly waned, but that doesn't mean there aren't some people who are still obsessed with knowing what will happen ahead of time. There are multiple projects throughout the world with the aim of putting together banks of supercomputers who will comb data at incredibly high speeds and extrapolate the likely future of mankind. However, while there is the odd supercomputer out there, they are usually dedicated to, well, more important tasks. Those trying to predict the future have been trying to come up with predictive models in rather bizarre ways. One group has been trying to teach a computer to predict future human behavior by watching videos, namely videos of American television shows like The Big Bang Theory and America's remake of the popular UK show The Office. It was able to predict future actions with a 43% accuracy, which is pretty interesting, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good at predicting real human behavior. TV shows follow a formulaic pattern that a computer program shouldn't have too much trouble spotting. However, real life is way more variable and random and unpredictable. Number 8. Achieve immortality through whatever means necessary. People throughout the ages have been obsessed with trying to become immortal. Tales tell of those who went on lifelong quests, wasting the life they could have been enjoying in the attempt to get as many lives as they could possibly ever want. It's likely that many of those are just morality tales, but some people will never stop obsessing over the idea. As we have mentioned before, some people are studying the Benjamin Button jellyfish in the hopes of uncovering how it can turn itself back into an embryo in order to heal, but this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of our attempts to make ourselves immortal. Scientists have been studying everything from cloning people and transferring consciousness to just cloning and replacing whichever organs fail, to every possible angle of stem cells, and now many different nanoparticles as well. These studies have so far helped prolong life, but not brought anyone closer to true immortality. The truth is, though, that immortality would have bad consequences for the entire world. In order for the natural ecosystem to work properly, people need to naturally die. The world can't exactly be overpopulated. The world can reach a point where it cannot sustain enough food and water for everyone. If this were to happen, people are going to start to die whether they're immortal or not. Just because you can't die from disease, injury, or old age doesn't mean you won't starve to death. Number 7. Touchscreens have set us back in terms of interfacing with technology. In many futuristic movies going all the way back to the 80s and perhaps even further, using touchscreen technology was one of the main ways to show that your movie was set in a much different time. This is one of those cases where technology basically became a self-fulfilling prophecy, even though it made no sense at all. People were inspired by all these movies, and geeks started inventing and heavily marketing touchscreen smartphones and then tablets. Before long, finding a smartphone with a keyboard was almost impossible. Touchscreens led to an incredible amount of autocorrect failures and time spent trying to retype messages. Dozens of typing apps have been designed to help people type properly on a device that is now incredibly terrible for typing, despite that being one of its main purposes. These interfaces are now appearing in many more places, and usually cause more problems than they solve. While a touchscreen may seem futuristic, it makes typing slower and less accurate, and really provides no true benefit to the user. While we certainly need better interfacing technology than a computer and a mouse, the touchscreen was actually a step back. Perhaps someday we will find a truly efficient and non-frustrating way to use our electronic devices. Number 6. Voice activation and speech recognition is a gigantic waste of time and money. In the realm of interfacing with technology, another thing incredibly popular in sci-fi movies is the ability to interact with your technological devices by simply speaking to them. Not only can your computer perfectly understand what you are saying, but it also understands your unique tones and can even tell your emotions. This may not sound like it's super advanced or anything, but the truth is that this kind of speech recognition technology is basically wizardry as far as actual science is concerned. Speech recognition is incredibly complicated and difficult to work with. Getting a computer to recognize someone's voice can be pretty difficult, even if the machine is calibrated to a person's voice. Problems arise when the person has a cold or they slur their words. This can throw the computer off entirely. Voice recognition is so difficult to program because in order for the computer to understand, it has to take into account a lot of things like accents and regional dialects. Further, it then has to take all of this and put it into context. Devices like Siri try to show what speech recognition can do, and most people kind of think it's a bit of a joke. The attempts to integrate this into technology so heavily are another example of people pulling stuff from sci-fi movies into real life, not because it's a good idea, but because it looked cool on the big screen. Number 5. Attempting to create a true artificial consciousness with full sentience. Many people are obsessed with the sci-fi idea of a robot who seems to be fully conscious and aware of what it is. A lot of popular media will explore the issue in depth as kind of a moral question, postulating how far the rights of artificially conscious beings should go. However, the truth is that there aren't any scientists, at least not any serious ones, actually trying to create an artificially conscious being. The problem is that right now we don't really even understand what makes consciousness in the first place. The best research into brain science doesn't really come close to understanding why humans are able to fully be aware of their experience. Further, some experts believe that if we accidentally created a computer that could truly think, we might not even realize it. Recently, experts like Elon Musk and Bill Gates have come out against certain types of AI research and have strongly cautioned against the dangers. Many people think that they might have jumped the shark and shouldn't be taken seriously, as we are nowhere near creating actually conscious beings. However, the truth is that the dangers would be just as bad whether the AI we create is ever actually conscious in any form or not. Experts point out that a computer doesn't need to be conscious in order to be better than you or more efficient than you at something. If it beats you at chess, it isn't conscious of its victory, but it still won. If the AI had a flaw in its programming, which is not unlikely, this could cause it to do something very bad for humanity. And if it did something like this, it could probably do it extremely efficiently and quickly. In the name of making our lives easier, we could give this machine a lot of control, which could make it incredibly hard to stop. It could do untold damage in just a few minutes. Many experts are already talking about implementing various forms of kill switches or other safety features for AI in the future in order to avoid possible calamity. Number 4. Allowing our power grids to be controlled by and connected to a network. Many people tend to take their power grid for granted until it goes out. An insane amount of work goes into keeping the lights on 24/7, and many people don't realize just how easy it is for something to go wrong. Plants can only store energy for a short time, so they pretty much always have to be on, and they need to ensure that the right amount of energy is being produced in order to keep from producing too much and still ensure that everyone has power. In the event of major disasters, power going down can greatly slow recovery effects and put many more people in danger. This is why it is essential that our power grid is well maintained and kept safe from any threats. However, there is an increasing worry that the security of the United States' power grids, and perhaps others throughout the developed world, could be vulnerable to hackers, whether foreign or domestic. Many plants are still analog, which is lucky, but more modern plants are often connected to networks that can be reached without even being on location. Even just the ones that could be shut down or messed with for a short time could cause untold damage and chaos to the country. While it may seem like a good idea to always have the internet connected, in terms of security, the only way to be truly safe is to never allow your system to be connected to any outside network at all. Now, these plants do have a lot of fail-safes built in, and hackers could probably access only something limited. But if we do continue down this digital path, we're going to create a more integrated network, which could be catastrophic if it was struck by something like a worm. Number 3. The movement by companies to automate and digitally integrate every home appliance. You can chalk this one up again to sci-fi movies causing people to want technologies that they don't need. Over the past decade or so, we've seen a push that seems to be repeated at every tech show, and that's that you want all of your home appliances to be integrated so they work with your smartphone and tablet. This is something that you might see in the Jetsons and you think, wow, it looks extremely cool, but for good reason, it just doesn't catch on. Every year, companies like Samsung try to push these products, and every year, consumers decline. The fact of the matter is that while they are sold as convenience devices, they actually make everything way more complicated. Making refrigerators and toasters digital is a solution looking for a problem. All you're doing is adding more things that can go wrong. It would also require more people to get entirely new sets of appliances to make them all work properly with the attached smartphone app. Even those who are very well-to-do and interested in new technology find the idea to be a tough sell. It's essentially attempting to sell something as convenience that adds more steps to the person's life and provides them with more things that could break or stop working properly. It may seem cool because it's like the movies, but technology should make people's lives easier and simpler, not more complicated. Number 2. Virtual reality research is breaking new ground, but it's not asking the right questions. In many cases, people are convinced that virtual reality is another step forward in human evolution. They figure that being able to mimic reality with technology is incredibly advanced, but while it is certainly a very difficult and cutting-edge field, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is a good idea at all. While there are some possible real-world training applications for virtual reality, such as teaching someone surgery or other such important procedures without needing to deal with a live patient, it also comes with its own ethical quandaries and other issues. Many psychologists are worried that when virtual reality really takes off, people will soon find it hard to differentiate between the two worlds. While devices could be designed to stop people from playing too long at one time, hackers are known to disable such things. Also, while some think that keeping things separate might make for a better situation, technology like Pokemon Go is already proving that people are looking to make virtual reality that is augmented with real-world movement. This can cause serious dangers, like people who have been hurt crossing the road and not looking first properly because they were trying to catch a Pokemon with their phone. But psychologists are even more afraid of the long-term new psychoses that could develop around a world where people are more and more unable to tell what is real from what is not. As for training people to do dangerous work, there is also an ethical consideration. Some would argue that despite how real it may seem, it isn't the same as the real, actual training, which could lead to all kinds of legal and moral issues. Number 1. Using cutting-edge medical technology to cosmetically change people's eye color to blue. It wasn't long ago that people could hope to live to their 50s or maybe their 60s at the very best, and there have been times in history when life expectancy was much, much worse. As we have continued to advance our medical technology, we have managed to do all kinds of medical marvels. We have been able to give normal lives to people who have lost senses, limbs, and other important parts of their body. We have been able to cure or lessen the effect of many things that would have been a death sentence not long ago. We've reached a point where people are now more worried about the cost and availability of care than they are about the actual quality. However, while technology and quality of care has greatly improved, there are still many people in the world who are without the medical care that they need. While most doctors are out there making sure people get the care they need, there are others who have decided that there are more important things to do and are working tirelessly in their labs on prototype technology to change people's eyes to the more desirable color of blue. While this may sound just like the other existing cosmetic surgeries, it was an incredibly expensive and time-consuming research process that is likely to benefit only the very rich. They point out that some people are very rarely born with mismatched eyes and that this could help them fit in, but it is an incredibly small number of people that couldn't sustain a business, and they are clearly looking to go commercial with their invention. Unfortunately, in modern times, some in the medical field are way more interested in finding a way to get rich than truly improving medical care. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, over there on the right are a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.